My family has been in real estate for as long as I have been on the planet. I had an uncle who was a home inspector for a while. My parents owned quite a bit of property in downtown Tucson, which is where I grew up. And there's always been a few investment projects going on in my family. We had a unit in the Golden Triangle in downtown Denver that I helped manage for about a decade. Honestly, it's always been kind of in the background of my life. Real estate has always been a part of who I am. It's just been either more in the forefront or a little bit more in the background. I was in education for about 20 years, and I was in the classroom. I was a teacher in New York City. I was a teacher in Denver Public Schools in a bilingual classroom. I have my master's in aesthetics and education, and I have my doctorate in curriculum and instruction. And I've worked in museums, I've worked at botanic gardens, doing all kinds of different education-related activities and jobs. I care a lot about education, and I care a lot about the people that are engaged in learning, and I think that that can look very different depending on the context. So it's not just about learning in a classroom, it's learning about yourself in order to make the right decisions for your home and for your future, and knowing what you need and what motivates you and being self-aware. I think that that's a really huge part of education. It definitely ties into real estate. That's my favorite part, actually, is educating my clients. And I also honestly learn something new every time I'm involved with a buyer or a seller. There's so much to learn about the individual. Every deal is very different. And there's always so much professional development to do too, and I honestly really enjoy that piece of it. I decided to get into real estate in an official capacity after my mom passed away. She lived in Tucson, and it turns out that I was executor of her estate, which I did not know until she died. She died really unexpectedly. I had no idea what it meant to manage someone's estate. I was in a different state. I'd never sold someone else's house, and I didn't know anything about her home. I was 5 weeks away from defending my PhD when she died. And so all of that kind of went on hold for a couple of years, obviously. And when it came time to sell my mother's house, I interviewed probably close to 6 agents, 6 different companies, and had them come in and sit down and meet with me. And I realized, honestly, fairly quickly that it wasn't about the person who said we could necessarily make the most. It was about the person who could say, this is reasonable, this is really what you can expect, and this is why. I felt confident in his assessment of what was realistic. I was grateful that he was being honest with me, and he could handle a really potentially stressful and emotional time in my life and with the beneficiaries and the other people involved in the estate. That was honestly the most important thing to me. He was very honest about the reality. He didn't inflate anything. It was, this is what I think you can reasonably get. And he could show me in a very concrete way why he thought what he thought. And he helped me make decisions. At the end of the day, just like with my clients, it was up to me. What I did was up to me. I treat my clients the way that I would want to be treated, which is straightforward but caring. It can be a really intense process. And so I think it's very important to make sure that you're a good fit on both sides. I think that's really important.